Tonight, a large grass fire comes within metres of homes in Melbourne's northwest on another day of extreme heat. Omicron spreading rapidly across Victoria with 7,000 new cases today. One of the quietest New Year's on record as the heat and COVID keeps crowds away. A second cliff collapse near Bells Beach where a man was killed by falling rocks. One of the world's most loved performers, comedy golden girl Betty White, dies aged 99. And Rafael Nadal recovers from COVID and flies into Melbourne, ready for the Australian Open.
Live from Melbourne, 7 News with Jackie Felgate starts now.
Good evening. Residents in Melbourne's northwest have been forced to flee a fast-moving fire that came within metres of homes. 20 crews fought the raging blaze before a sudden wind change helped save properties on a day of danger across the state.
A menacing start to the new year for residents of Maribyrnong as a fast-moving grass fire roars to life.
It's all on fire and we were here last night watching the fireworks over that whole area.
Strong winds and searing midday heat fuelled the flames, which came just metres from homes and a former Army explosives factory.
It's rather disconcerting because there are lots of toxic chemicals impregnated into the soil on that site.
Police went door to door evacuating homes. A handful packed the car and left. Others chose to stay, using any means possible to defend their homes.
The way fire can travel in the wind, I'm no expert, so I wouldn't want to predict that we're safe.
Fire crews swarmed the paddocks, fighting the blaze from every angle, putting out flying embers before they could take hold. One fiery fell in a rush to protect property, while anxious residents in nearby streets watched the blaze inch closer to their doors.
Fire is a difficult fire to control at this point in time because of the landscape and the grass and trees in the area.
A sudden wind change helped crews save all homes in the firing line, with only a handful of empty army barracks suffering minor damage from the flames. Most of the buildings have an asbestos lining on it, so Fire Rescue Victoria has implemented our decontamination procedures. A toxic smoke warning has been issued for nearby suburbs north of the blaze, with the fire just a few hundred metres from High Point Shopping Centre. The cause is under investigation.
Victoria Police are on scene. Our fire investigators will also be involved in.
That's the closest I've ever been to a fire.
Ashley Kanowski, 7 News.
Omicron has taken over as the dominant COVID strain, tearing through Victoria with more than 7,000 new cases today. Australia's rate of infection is climbing faster than any other country, with revelations the Andrews government ignored Brett Sutton's plea to enforce new restrictions.
Even early New Year's Day, long queues at testing sites. Yesterday, a third of our cases were the fast-moving Omicron. Now it's the most dominant variant.
I think that some more drastic restrictions will need to be put in place.
Once again, a record, almost 7,500 new cases from just over 63,000 tests, a positivity rate of almost 12%, 1 in every 8 people testing positive. Tragically, 9 more deaths, 23 more people in hospital, up to 451, but still...
There are no plans for more restrictions.
In fact, in advice published as a result of the controversial new pandemic legislation, Chief Health Officer Professor Brett Sutton last month also wanted tougher restrictions. The government said yes to indoor mask mandates, but rejected his requests to close dance floors, to reimpose hospitality density limits and to make spectators at major events pass rapid antigen tests.
Based on, the needs of the community and the decisions that are coming out of National Cabinet.
I think all of the recommendations were quite reasonable, and I think we may come to regret not doing them.
In New South Wales, a frightening 22,577 new cases from almost 120,000 tests. That's a positivity rate of 18.9%, 1 in every 5 people testing positive. Hospital numbers there up 69 to 901. Overall, Australian case numbers per 100,000 people are climbing at the fastest rate in the world. The spike here during December twice as steep as the next highest nation, Denmark. And that's before an expected surge from New Year's celebrations.
Almost certainly there will be an increase in transmission.
And the government is working on a way for those who test positive using rapid antigen tests to post their results online. Already done in Britain, it'd make COVID case figures more accurate, but...
In terms of the timing, Nick, how far away it could be, I don't have a direct answer, but it could literally be months still.
Nick McCallum, 7 News.
Police say Victoria's New Year celebrations were the quietest in decades. The crowd was big at St Kilda, but mostly well behaved, while numbers were down in the city, with only a handful of troublemakers arrested.
Farewell to 2021 for some. Good riddance for others after a year in and out of lockdown. A sprightly few started 2022 with a dip, others opting to sleep off a big night.
The most wonderful feeling of joy as people came into the city to really relax and celebrate with friends and family.
The extreme heat and record COVID cases kept some away from the party.
For police, it was one of the quietest New Year's Eves on record.
But paramedics and police were called to a number of brawls in the city, putting out violent spot fires throughout the night. Police arrested 48 people. There were 14 assaults and 13 motorists got nabbed for drink or drug driving. Emergency crews were kept busy with illegal fireworks.
Many of which resulted in fires, grass fires and scrub fires around the state, which was really quite disappointing.
Police also conducted more than 1,000 searches on revellers across the city. Alarmingly, 12 were arrested for carrying weapons, mostly knives, but also knuckle dusters and a large hunting knife.
And there's sort of this false view sometimes from some younger people that it's for self-defence.
Ticket holders for one of 4 city celebration sites lapped up a front row seat to live entertainment and fireworks. Many shaking off a turbulent 12 months. Avoiding the city, hundreds decided to cool off at St Kilda Beach. Across the bay in Lorne, partygoers chose to forget how tough the year has been.
There's a lot of people, a lot of laughs, a very good environment. Everyone feels happy. Distracts you from COVID, which is great, because we don't need to hear anything more about that. Hopefully it's a fantastic new year.
I don't want to talk about COVID anymore. This place does feel like the coastal escape that we've been waiting for.
Kissing 2021 goodbye. Cassie Zervos, 7 News.
There's been a second cliff collapse near Bells Beach less than 24 hours after a man was killed by falling rocks. It's forced a large section of the beach to be closed, with locals demanding more be done to protect holidaymakers.
In the searing heat, 3 Parks Victoria rangers had Southside Beach to themselves, assessing a 30-metre section of the cliff face that yesterday collapsed onto a group of 6 people, killing a 28-year-old man who'd been using the cliff's edge as a sunshade.
Yeah, we're out in the water this morning and there are still 10 or 15 people camped out almost in the same spot as where the cliff collapse occurred.
When I was surfing today, I saw it and I was thinking about it because they could fall at any time, but it rarely happens. So
today, the beach was closed up to Point Addis, and by midday, more movement. Rangers reporting another rockfall at nearby Jarrasite Headland, warning beachgoers to stay away. The cliff at risk of moving for hours, even days after.
Temporary signs have now been set up in the area warning beachgoers of the unstable cliffs. But locals here believe these signs should be permanent to prevent another tragic death.
I reckon they probably should have more signs around just to get people more aware of what could happen.
Local Mayor Libby Stapleton says the Surf Coast Shire will play our part in seeking to ensure everyone can enjoy our beautiful coastline safely, as investigations continue into what caused yesterday's tragedy. Jodie Lee, 7 News.
Hollywood has lost its last golden girl. Betty White broke the Tinseltown mould over a career that spanned almost all her life. She died weeks shy of her 100th birthday, now being remembered as one of America's best known and most loved performers.
For all Hollywood's exalting of the young, they loved Betty White more the older she got. From a Saturday Night Live appearance at 88, the show's oldest ever host.
You know what's an accomplishment? Staying awake on the toilet.
To a football commercial for a chocolate bar.
You're playing like Betty White out there.
That's not what your girlfriend said.
She turned her gifted punchline timing on old age itself.
If I want to connect with old friends, I need a Ouija board.
She appeared in an experimental TV transmission in 1939. By the mid-50s,
Betty White in Life with Elizabeth.
Betty White had starring roles.
Betty White.
I'm a little lamb who's lost in the world.
But none topped this 80s hit.
Thank you for being a friend.
Boy, there is nothing more frustrating than waiting for one of these suckers to rise and it just won't. And I loved Rose Nyland. She was positive and she wasn't the sharpest knife in the drawer, but she wasn't dumb. She was just terminally naive.
In her 90s, asked if she had any Hollywood projects she'd still like to do.
I usually answer that question with Robert Redford. There's a difference between dirty and risque or double entendre. It's what you don't say that's funny.
Honoured with 5 Emmys. Today, fans honoured her on the Walk of Fame and at her home.
We're so sad about her death.
99 years old.
Yeah.
As my mother would say, God love her.
One actor reflecting America has lost Betty White just as it needs her example more than ever.
The gratitude for being alive and not having to be so angry about everything.
Los Angeles had been gearing up for a very different Betty White story. Just a couple of weeks ago, she told the magazine reporter she felt amazing for her age. Betty White turns 100, the cover says. Well, so nearly. The last golden girl died in her LA home, 18 days short of her milestone birthday. In Los Angeles, Tim Lester, 7 News.
A wonderful life. Sydney's New Year fireworks are being praised as the best ever. 6 tonnes of fireworks lighting up the midnight sky. Crowds were down to just tens of thousands, not the usual millions, because of COVID. The 12-minute show was set to an original soundtrack by Aussie music legends The Presets. It also featured an early blue hue in tribute to the doctors and nurses working on the front line. Australia was one of the first countries to welcome in 2022 as cities around the world followed throughout the day. From Dubai to London and, of course, New York, revellers did their best to celebrate despite surging COVID cases.
A return to tradition. With a COVID twist, masked and vaccinated, a scaled-back crowd capped at just 15,000. Far fewer than pre-pandemic levels, but they're here.
I'm from Los Angeles. My name's Yawande, representing UCLA. Hey!
Revellers from all corners of the country and the world welcomed back to Times Square to mark a new year in New York.
I've seen it a million times on TV and now I'm here. I'm really happy.
This has always been something that I've wanted to do So he and I both get to scratch it off our bucket list.
Partygoers undeterred by record case numbers, the city, the epicentre of America's Omicron surge.
We've been vaccinated, we brought our cards, everybody else brought their cards, and we're trying to be safe. I guess I should mask up.
It is America's New Year's Eve celebration, the ball drop in Times Square marking the end of another year. But it hasn't united all of America as people here celebrate. In other parts of the country, events have been called off.
No fireworks in San Francisco, some bars and pubs forced to close. Atlanta's peach drop squashed. Around the world, COVID-claimed celebrations in China. Events scrapped in multiple cities. Muted celebrations in Moscow. An empty Red Square showered by fireworks. Big Ben chimed at midnight. London's fireworks display only given the green light with just hours to go. Dubai's Burj Khalifa lighting up in a stunning explosion of colour, and record cases didn't stop crowds in Rome for a show over the Colosseum. It's hoped restrictions will prevent these celebrations turning to super-spreading events. US health officials did warn against mass crowds, but New York City leaders believe they've hit the right balance.
We want to show that we're moving forward, and we want to show the world that New York City is fighting our way through this.
Farewelling the year that was, with high hopes for the future.
And what are you hoping for in 2022?
To get rid of the COVID.
Aren't we all?
And Miley Hogan is in Times Square for us. Hello, Miley. How's the party going?
Well, Jackie, in the city that never sleeps, of course, there's still plenty of people who've come back into Times Square to lap up and be part of this celebration. But the majority of the crowd did clear out incredibly quickly, and that is because it was drastically scaled down with a massive spike in cases here in the US. US officials were warning against those large gatherings as those COVID cases did spike. Today, the US recording 400,000 new infections. That's up 200% on 2 weeks ago. For now, it is a wait and watch, though, to see if the celebrations that were held here in Times Square will add to that high rate of infection. Jackie?
Miley Hogan, live in New York. Thank you. Tennis superstar Rafael Nadal has recovered from COVID and reacquainted himself with Melbourne Park. The Spaniard hit the practice courts in the heat today after arriving yesterday, 2 weeks since he tested positive to the virus. While Nadal is raring to go, there's still no word on Novak Djokovic's status, with both chasing the outright record of the men's Grand Slam titles. And we'll have plenty more ahead in sport. Cricket officials are on edge tonight, with COVID threatening to derail the 4th Ashes test. The details are next. Plus, the driver behaviour being blamed for Victoria's alarming road toll. The extraordinary sight of snow helping fire crews battle devastating wildfires. And 17 Australians start the new year as multi-millionaires.
Our mega draw winners.
It's been a nervous wait for Australia's cricketers after COVID left the 4th Ashes test hanging in the balance. Players and staff have tested negative 4 days out, but they're still not in the clear.
Back from a morning run to the team hotel, but Steve Smith wasn't the only one perspiring.
How's everyone feeling this morning? Good run?
The whole team sweating on daily test results after Travis Head's positive COVID-19 test sent shockwaves through the squad yesterday.
There you go, and all clear? Good guys, thank you.
Usman Khawaja relishing the recall for Wednesday's day 1 of the 4th test.
SCG, home of cricket. If I do get an opportunity, it's always very exciting to play test cricket.
There was some relief this afternoon with word of no other positive results, but still not completely in the clear. All Australian squad members and support staff have returned negative COVID-19 results from yesterday's testing. The result of one family member is outstanding. Given the long wait times, currently there is no time frame for that result to be returned.
It's now sit around for 24, 48 hours. Hopefully no more positives in the camp, and we can move on to playing cricket.
With 4 days of testing to go, the players know a lot can change.
I guess for any player, you'd hate to miss an opportunity to represent your country, but also understand it's a pretty difficult environment we are living in.
With no priority treatment being given for the daily test results for the team, about the only certainty at this stage is that they'll all be here at the SCG tomorrow afternoon for a training session from 2 p.m. Evan Batten, 7 News.
Victorians are being urged to slow down after 7 people were killed on our roads in the final week of 2021. Quieter roads during lockdowns had little impact on the annual road toll.
A tragic start to the new year. 2 dead after an already devastating 2021 on Victorian roads.
So many innocent victims in road trauma every single day. Hardworking people just going along to work.
236 people were killed across the state, up from 211 in 2020. And in Melbourne, figures soared to 117, up from 85.
This is despite our streets being quieter coming out of lockdown and COVID. Our message is very clear. This comes down to behaviour choices we all make.
Speed was a factor in 20% of fatals. Drugs, alcohol and fatigue also played a major part. And alarmingly, 36 motorists weren't wearing a seatbelt when they were killed. Police are pushing for more people to mask up and return to public transport for their daily commute this year in a bid to bring the road toll down. The perfect storm of police tied up with COVID-19 operations and rusty drivers returning to the roads may have also contributed to the spike, with the most lives lost in November.
Less visible and less enforcement leads to higher trauma.
Rochelle Brown, 7 News.
A man has been seriously injured when he was stabbed during a home invasion in Geelong West. It's alleged 2 men broke into the unit around 3:30 this morning and attacked the 20-year-old. A 34-year-old man and a 20-year-old man have been charged. Police say they know each other. Up to 1,000 homes have been destroyed in minutes in Colorado as a midwinter firestorm erupted. It's forced entire towns to be evacuated as it burned quickly through dry scrub.
Home after home burning to the ground. A winter firestorm swept through so fast, firefighters simply could not save them.
In the blink of an eye, this was a disaster in fast motion, all over the course of half a day.
Boulder County, Colorado, consumed by flames in just a few hours. Residents had no time to pack, fleeing with their lives and little else.
It was pretty shocking. The winds were blowing embers all over the road.
As we got closer to our street, the smoke was so thick that it was too much to try to drive through that, so we turned around.
They'll likely return to nothing.
I would estimate it's going to be at least 500 homes. I would not be surprised if it's 1,000.
From the air, it's hard to believe. In the middle of the coldest season, a town razed to the ground in searing heat. As quickly as it erupted, it was gone. From one extreme to the other, snowfall dousing the disaster.
How grateful we are that the snow has started.
President Biden is expected to make an official disaster declaration, triggering support for hundreds of families, starting the new year homeless. In the United States, Tim Lester, 7 News.
17 Australians have started 2022 with a bang, winning a slice of the $40 million Division 1 Lotto prize pool. Roughly 1 in 3 eligible adults purchased a ticket in the biggest ever jackpot in the annual mega draw. Each winner walked into the new year with a handy $2.3 million. That'd be nice. We've had a sweltering start to 2022. Estelle Griepink joins me. Estelle, how long is this weather going to last?
Well, Jack, we've had a very hot 2 days, but our holiday heat wave is almost over, and many of us will be very grateful for that. Last night, it was hard to get to sleep with the temperature feeling stifling. In the city, it was still 26 degrees at 9 p.m. This is what it looked like at Seaford Beach, where it was still 35 degrees at 6 p.m. And that dry heat has persisted right through today as well, with the city hitting a boiling 37 this afternoon. But relief from the heat is on the way, and in typical Melbourne fashion, we now have clouds and showers heading towards us. I'll have the details after sport, Jack.
Okay, I'll see you then. Thank you, Estelle. New documents have lifted the lid on one of Australia's most challenging times. Up next, from 9/11 to the children overboard crisis, what John Howard has to say 20 years on. Plus, tensions running high between the United States and Russia. A surprise for drinkers having a quiet pint at the pub. And And the moment a big sister meets her baby brother after a tough start to life. 2001 was a defining year in Australian history. The September 11 terrorist attacks changed the world forever, and the Tampa affair shaped our strict asylum seeker policy. Cabinet documents kept secret for 20 years give new insight into the decisions made by then Prime Minister John Howard.
September 11, 2001.
Oh my God! Oh my God!
4 hijacked planes, almost 3,000 people dead, 25,000 injured, and a lasting impact that would change the world.
It elevated terrorism to top-of-mind presence, and it obviously had an effect on me.
Now, secret documents released by the National Archives 20 years later reveal Cabinet expressed serious concerns about how Australia would respond to a similar attack on simultaneous locations, believing it would be highly problematic for counter-terror police at the current level of capability. The deadliest attack on American soil, leading to the first and only time the ANZUS Treaty has been formally invoked, deploying Australian troops to Afghanistan.
The short-term goal was to disable Al-Qaeda and to make sure there wasn't another 9/11 attack.
Documents also revealing the government was not prepared to commit to a medium or long-term stabilisation force on the ground.
We had a short-term commitment of special forces, but weren't the stuff of a long-term military commitment.
Yet that's what it became. 20 years in Afghanistan, the longest war. Troops only withdrawing last August.
Commitments were made without any kind of endgame consideration.
Just weeks earlier, the Howard government faced the Tampa affair, a high-seas standoff with the captain of a Norwegian freighter who picked up more than 400 asylum seekers from a sinking boat and attempted to enter Australian waters. The government refused deploying SAS troops in a show of military force.
Do you regret sending SAS
No,
troops?
I don't. I thought it was the right thing to do, and I didn't apologise for that and still don't.
The government later enforcing the Pacific solution, offshore processing and expansion of the migration zone and turning back boats. More than 350 people dying at sea trying to reach Australian shores.
It was a very tough policy, but I thought it was the right policy.
Cabinet fearing there were as many as 6,500 asylum seekers awaiting passage to Australia, but that never eventuated.
The truth is that our policy did result in the boats not coming.
The issue of border security politically turbocharged during the Children Overboard scandal. Photos released by the government claiming to show children had been thrown into the sea from a sinking vessel. Claims later found to be false.
When were you first advised that it appeared no children had been thrown overboard?
Well, not until really after the election.
So you did not know before the election?
No, I was not told before the election that the original advice was wrong, no.
Earlier in 2001, the coalition lagged in the polls, voters fuming at soaring petrol prices, fuel hitting $1 a litre, forcing a cabinet backflip, reducing fuel excise and axing indexation.
That was the beginning of a slow fight back by Howard towards the victory he eventually got.
But it was the popular border security and national security policies that helped drive John Howard to a third term as Prime Minister.
I think we would have won the election without 9/11 or the Tampa. But there's no doubt that the public supported how we'd handled both of those issues.
Arguing a win in the Aston by-election in July showed the tide was already turning. Historians aren't convinced.
There was no nuance possible the way the government framed immigration, border security and linked it to S11. I think it had a decisive effect.
The events of 2001 sparking new policy debates on issues surrounding border security and national security. The decisions made 20 years ago setting Australia on a new strategic path, one that we are still following to this day.
Handling the security of the country and the economy of the country are givens when it comes to the Australian public, and for good reason.
Scott Morrison hopes to strike the same balance when voters go to the polls later this year. Taylor Aiken, 7 News.
Joe Biden says he warned Vladimir Putin of a heavy price if Russia invades Ukraine. The two leaders spoke on the phone as tensions simmer over Russia's troop movements on the Ukraine border.
If he makes any more moves and goes into Ukraine, we will have severe sanctions. We will increase our presence in Europe with our NATO allies.
Vladimir Putin gave a New Year's message from the Kremlin. He threatened a complete breakdown of relations with the US if they intervene. Security cameras have captured a very close call in England. A car came crashing through the beer garden of a pub. 3 men were standing outside, scrambling out of the way as debris went flying. The driver then took off on foot. They're still on the run. The parents of a baby born 3 months premature and weighing just 1 kilogram have finally taken their son home 2 months on. COVID rules prevented the rest of the family meeting the tiny boy until today.
Debbie Sanders and her granddaughter Marnie have waited months for this moment. Meeting their new little family member for the first time.
After 66 days, he finally gets to meet his sister. She's been role-playing with her baby doll since he was born.
Baby Netto was born at just 27 weeks, tiny and needing a lot of specialist care in Melbourne's Mercy Hospital's neonatal intensive care unit. He's now 66 days old and today his parents got to take him home.
It is. It's such a lovely feeling. Go home and have lots of cuddles now.
Netto was born at just over 6 months when mum Dale's placenta detached from her womb, depriving him of oxygen.
And I just was a bit uncomfortable, and then I come in on the Wednesday morning. I didn't feel right. They managed to slow the labour down. We found out afterwards that I had a placenta abruption.
But her baby boy is doing well.
His prospects are really good. He's going home at day 66 before his due date, which is amazing.
Around 1 in 10 babies are born prematurely, but it's extremely rare to be born as early as Netto.
So it is ultimately our main goal to get these families home with their babies healthy and doing really well.
Reeling in the happiest of New Year's for the Rugatua family.
It's a good sign for 2022.
Georgia Bennett Murphy, 7 News.
Yeah, the best present. Melbourne's musicals were enjoying packed houses until Omicron came along. The impact it's having on stage shows is just ahead. Plus, a new year brings new prices for catching a train or tram. And Australia's favourite dinosaur given a very special honour. More theatre performances have been cancelled because of COVID. The audience at Moulin Rouge was abruptly sent home yesterday after a member of the production team tested positive. The shows scheduled for today and tomorrow have also been cancelled. The musical Frozen was also forced to axe performances this weekend. The cost of public transport has risen today. Daily Metro network users can expect to spend an extra $73 a year on fares.
We've added more services than ever before. It's cleaner than it's ever been, and it is safe.
Today is the day where life becomes significantly more expensive for Victorians. Public transport fares increased by 2.3% across the Metro network, but 1.1% across the regional network.
The increase comes after a freeze on fares last year. No one is happier to see the end of 2021 than British Prime Minister Boris Johnson, who endured a disastrous December. His New Year message to Britons was full of hope, knowing there's a tough road ahead with the country on the brink of 200,000 COVID cases a day.
It was a turbulent festive season for Boris Johnson.
No one should be in any doubt. There is a tidal wave of Omicron coming.
So too damning allegations of Downing Street parties held during the country's strict lockdown.
This fictional party was a business meeting.
I apologise for the impression that has been given that staff in Downing Street take this less than seriously. I'm sickened myself and furious about that.
A grovelling apology overshadowed by a $30,000 Tory fine because the Prime Minister received unauthorised donations to renovate his Downing Street flat. Party tension saw the resignation of his own MPs and struggled to get COVID restrictions through Parliament.
I left the government because, as I think is well known, I couldn't support certain policies.
The drama and scandal not mentioned in his New Year's message. Instead, Boris Johnson celebrated the success of the booster campaign, despite just under 200,000 new COVID cases in the last 24 hours.
So make it your New Year's resolution, far easier than losing weight or keeping a diary. Find a walk-in centre or make an online appointment. Get that jab.
But through all of December's dark days for the PM, one bright moment, the arrival of his daughter Romy. In London, Tegan Dolling, 7 News.
The 7 Network ended 2021 on top, the #1 television station nationally for the calendar year. 7 has just shy of 40% commercial audience share, well ahead of its nearest rival. And 7 also had the most watched television moments of the year, the AFL Grand Final and the Olympic Games, as well as Sunrise, the #1 breakfast show, and 7 News, the most watched nightly news for the 6th year in a row. Australia's favourite dinosaur has been given a very special privilege, minting the first coin in the world for 2022. The much-loved friend of the Wiggles said it was a great honour and she was roaring with excitement. It's hoped the coin will encourage people to learn about the different dinosaurs that lived in Australia. Travis Head's pain is Usman Khawaja's gain. Up next, we go inside the Aussie camp ahead of the Ashes and speak exclusively to Alex Carey. Rafael Nadal gets back in the groove ahead of the Oz Open. The King puts on a New Year's Eve show for the Lakers. And Dustin Fletcher's son Mason, a big hit in college football. Welcome back. Usman Khawaja says he's as ready as he'll ever be if, as expected, he gets the call-up to replace Travis Head in the 4th test at the SCG. But even Khawaja concedes his return to the Aussie side will be short-lived.
A daily COVID test, a 3-hour delay and a fallen teammate. New Year's Eve wasn't one to remember for the Aussies.
We were lucky enough to catch the 9 o'clock fireworks out the window, and then the midnight ones woke us up.
A wake-up call too for the players after Travis Head's positive results saw him ruled out of the Sydney test.
COVID keeps playing some tricks on us, and unfortunately Travis didn't make it on the plane, and I guess it's now sit around for 24, 48 hours. Hopefully no more positives in the camp and we can move on to playing cricket.
Head's omission opens the door for Usman Khawaja to take his place 10 years after he made his debut against England at the SCG.
Even if I do play, it'll only be for one game. Heady will come back next game. I'm quite, I understand that situation. I've been in it before.
It's something that I'm really excited for. You see it on TV. The players speak about it. It's a huge occasion for the McGrath Foundation, and we'd love to be a part of that.
While it was baby duties for the skipper, Steve Smith found a more relaxing way to get the heart rate up after sweating on a faulty lift for more than an hour yesterday.
Yeah, running with the VC, you've got to have a crack.
Josh Hazelwood's likely to miss again as he recovers from a side strain. England is in disarray. They've already lost the Ashes, their coach is in quarantine, travelling family members have returned positive results, and Joe Root's facing calls to quit as captain. Then, they've got to find a way to deal with the Aussie bowlers.
Stark's been incredible, Pat Cummins, amazing. Scott Boland comes in, that's Ashes history, sort of heroics. Nathan Lyon, Cameron Green's been so impressive as well.
When you put it that way, no wonder it's 3-0. Theodoropoulos, 7 News.
Sydney Thunder defied pre-game COVID dramas to defeat the Adelaide Strikers. 22-year-old Jason Sayers starred with an unbeaten 91, including 6 sixes, leading the Thunder to a 22-run win on New Year's Eve.
He has admired his work there. He's hammered long, and that's the longest boundary at the Adelaide Oval. That is an epic hit.
Not content with a half-century, he also picked up his maiden BBL wicket and the man of the match in the 22-run win. Rafael Nadal has made a surprise early arrival to Melbourne Park after his COVID battle less than 2 weeks ago. The star Spaniard is in pursuit of a 21st Grand Slam title.
Rafa Nadal knows Rod Laver Arena all too well. This will be his 17th appearance at Melbourne Park. Today's hit up, though, a massive step in his latest fitness fight. The world number 6 tested positive to COVID a fortnight ago after returning home to Spain from a tournament in Abu Dhabi. He's also been on the mend from a foot injury, aiming to break the Grand Slam record along with Novak Djokovic, who's still keeping everyone guessing on his status. Emma Raducanu is also acclimatising to the sweltering heat. The teenager stunned the tennis world in August, winning the US Open, but Britain's current number 1 star is yet to play here in Melbourne. Ash Barty will kickstart her campaign in Adelaide, hitting up today before the tournament gets underway from tomorrow. Venus Williams has confirmed she won't be travelling out due to a leg injury. It will be the first time since '97 that neither Williams sister is in Melbourne Park for the main draw. And in the ATP Cup in Sydney, Spain made it a perfect 3 from 3 in their tie with Chile.
The best possible starts in the group stage.
Argentina also barely raised a sweat with a clean sweep over Georgia. Tim Hipsley, 7 News.
Melbourne Cup winning jockey Jai McNeil has made a dream start to the new year. After riding 3 winners last night at Moonee Valley, he rode a double today at Flemington, including in the Chester Manifold Stakes.
Lighthouse moves up. The Grey takes the lead. She's going to come away. Lighthouse won the Chester Manifold. Favourite home.
Today's card was brought forward because of Melbourne's extreme heat. Ben Simmons still hasn't found a new home, but has now racked up almost $14 million in fines from the 76ers. On court, LeBron James was on fire for the Lakers. Just a day after turning 37, the King is showing no signs of slowing down.
Hammering! LeBron James with the hammer!
He finished the season with 43 points in the LA's 139-106 win over Portland. Meanwhile, there was pandemonium for the Bulls in this buzzer beater.
To win it! Goal! DeMar DeRozan delivers!
DeMar DeRozan getting Chicago over the line against Indiana 108-106. And Dustin Fletcher's son Mason was causing trouble in college football's semi-final in front of 19 million viewers, but starred for Cincinnati as their punter.
Coverage by Cincinnati.
He might have had the strut to go with the monster putt, but his Bearcats went down to Alabama 27-6. And Estelle Grieping is next with the forecast for us. Hello again, Estelle. Please tell us there is some cooler weather on the way soon.
Well, Jack, there is relief around the corner, and I'll have the details next.
Know the headlines as they break. Know the stories as they happen. With 7news.com.au, know the news now.
Hello again. 2022 has started off with a bang, giving us another day of extreme heat. When the fireworks went off at midnight, we were still in the 20s and we didn't get much relief overnight. In the city, it was still 23 degrees at 3:30 this morning and we hit 31 degrees by 9:30. We ended up climbing all the way to 37 degrees, but thanks to southwesterly winds, we've cooled down to a much more comfortable temperature and it's 26 right now. That cool change was felt across our suburbs, but not before we sweltered through some extreme temperatures. Werribee and Watsonia both hitting 39. Taking a look at the satellite, and a high pressure system is in the Tasman Sea while a low pressure trough lies over Western Victoria. That'll move east tomorrow. Around the nation tomorrow, Sydney's warm and stable, a top of 29. Brisbane's also 29, but with cloud and rain. Adelaide's looking mostly sunny, while Perth hits the 30s. To Victoria, and will be partly cloudy. The temperature comes right back down, giving us a much milder day. In the suburbs, will be cloudy, along with the chance of a thunderstorm in the hills. In the city, we're headed for a partly cloudy day with not so much heat as today. We should reach 28. It looks like tomorrow could be our hottest day of the week. After that, we'll stay in the 20s with a top of 21 on Monday. Lots of cloud cover on Tuesday, a top of 26, another top of 26 for Wednesday, but then showers start rolling in. The city could see up to 10 millimetres, but Thursday and Friday are our rainiest days. Both days bring a possible thunderstorm and up to 25 millimetres of rain. But it'll still be warm and in the high 20s, and this time next week will be worlds apart. A top of 22 with a possible shower compared to today's hot and dry 37. But tomorrow we'll still get to enjoy that summer warmth, but with much more tolerable temperatures. From a low of 20, we should hit a cloudy top of 28. Jack?
Sounds absolutely lovely. Thank you so much, Estelle. And that is all from the 7 News team for tonight. Have a great evening. Thanks for joining us.